All right, so this is probably going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but the other day when I posted my video about how grief, my suffering reconnected me to my spirit, and I talked about like coming across some Bible verses and pulling a card about surrounding myself with the cloak of Christ. I 111 on my mileage. um when after I posted that video, I decided to check my email, and in my email, I had an email from a pastor at a Baptist church in a city that's 45 minutes away from where I live. Um, I'm honestly not sure where he found my email at, but the email was sent directly to me. It was just my email in the two. It wasn't like a forward or anything. And he spoke about how he's in the middle of like a 6-week sermon on how to pray. And over the last like 2 weeks of my life, as I've been dealing with this breakup and facing my shadow, coming to terms with darker aspects of myself that destroyed my relationship, um, I have been really trying to focus on praying again. I was doing a lot of prayer last year. Um, and I've been trying to get back into the habit of doing it daily. So it's just kind of, my phone's falling, sorry. It's just kind of synchronistic that I get this email, right? Okay, I got my technical difficulties all taken care of. um, so they collected community prayers. They said they collected over 1,000 of them so they can pray as a group before the sermons on Sundays while he's doing this 6-week thing on how to pray. And I emailed last night about including a prayer about the situation with my mom, my brother-in-law's health, the financial situation for both my sister and I. And I have made the decision this morning to drive to this church to join them for the 8 a.m. community prayer, praying for everybody. I'm not a Christian. I'm definitely not a Baptist Christian, because I believe that the Word of God comes from multiple different sources, not just the Bible. Um, but I'm a very open-minded person, and I believe it could be a really good opportunity to get my mom's story out there, maybe find some support. It's in a pretty wealthy part of Tennessee, so maybe someone there could put me in touch with a lawyer that may be willing to help me out pro bono, or might be able to help get me in touch with a private investigator that might take me seriously into investigating the financial fraud. We will see. The address of the church, also very interesting. It's 7777. um, I got a new phone number this year, and it has 777 in it. It's a number of good luck, persevering, good fortune. We'll see. I'm following my intuition on this one. I'm going on an adventure this morning. I have not been to church since I was about 8 years old. I'm honestly a little nervous about it, but this grief support group that I joined, that I went to my first meeting last Sunday, is also a Christian program and takes place within a church, and I had a good time going. So we'll see how today goes. I have an open mind and an open heart. I got the email for a reason, right? I'm trusting spirit. I believe that miracles happen every day, and sometimes they come from unexpected sources. So, yeah, I'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching. I passed my exit not paying attention, but everything happens for a reason because there is literally a 555 in front of me right now. And I also want to add, for anybody watching this that thinks I'm absolutely insane right now, that I have, in numerology, my intuitive expression plane is master number 11, and my personality type is the intuitive, feeling, perceptive personality type. And in human design, I am a manifester with splenic authority, and I am guided by my intuition. It's how I make decisions about the things that I am doing. And, throughout the last 2 years, I have finally learned to follow my intuition and trust my guidance. And every time that I haven't, things have kind of gone wrong in my life. But over the last year, especially, as I have been learning to trust myself and follow my intuition, magic has been happening. I even won $100 on a scratch-off ticket by trusting my intuition and following signs and messages from the universe while I was on my way to Electric Forest last year. Sometimes the right decisions are not the most logical ones. Sometimes the right decisions come from that gut feeling that you get, and you just got to learn to trust your inner guidance, trust yourself, be curious about things, because curiosity is how the magic happens. There's that 555 license plate. I love it. I'll update you soon. Whew, did I have an interesting day today, going to a church for the first time since I was about 7 or 8 years old. I've also been attending a Christian grief support group. Today was the second week of it, and I had the exact same experience in the support group today that I had in the church. I realized that it's not for me. I am most definitely not a Christian. The experiences, the judgment that I felt just solidified the fact that I am not a Christian. It reminded me of why I told my mom I didn't want to go to church anymore when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Even from an early age, the judgment and the fear and the hypocrisy just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Why are we preaching division and separation of people and fear when it's supposedly a loving God? It just always confused me, and it created a lot of mental turmoil for me as a kid. I grew up in a very religious Christian family. I even went to a Christian private school for a little while. Um, I went because of the prayer group that began at 8, but I decided to stay for the sermon. And, the prayer group was really good. I met an absolutely lovely couple that invited me to pray in their group, and they even prayed for me in my personal struggles. They even tried to help me get some help with like some church resources, counselor. And then I met some other lovely individuals. This man that usually sings in the choir sat next to me, and we had a lovely conversation. He said that he'd pray for me as well, even without hearing my story. So like on an individual level, it was a pleasant experience. The people were very friendly, very warm and welcoming. Everybody was like, glad you're here. The music before the sermon was also really nice. The messages were really good. There was even a song about God always being there, no matter what, even if we're making mistakes. And then things got weird once the sermon began, and that's when I began like feeling really uncomfortable being there. I ended up taking notes the whole time because I was like, I just have to talk about this experience. And I was like, I don't want to miss things. Um, to begin the sermon, he started talking about, like, he started giving statistics about non-Christians in the world. And so he was talking about how there's about 5 billion people on the planet that haven't been touched by Christ, that don't know the good word, that still need to be reached. And the whole time he's talking about people who don't share Christian beliefs, I saw multiple members in the congregation shaking their head as, you know, it's judgment. Um, he started talking about conversions and mission trips and, you know, feeling this need to control people is what creates the division and separation that leads to atrocities within humanity. And I just think it's funny that today's sermon was about the story of Jonah and the whale. He was talking about the atrocities that the Assyrians of Nineveh committed against the Israelites. And, you know, those atrocities in our world get committed because people get this holier than thou era about them, and they feed their ego more so than feeding spirit, you know, this sense of unselfishness and love and servitude of others. They put themselves up on this moral high horse. And it's really interesting because he even started talking at one point about moral and spiritual superiority within the story of Jonah and the whale. He was like, you know, a lot of us tend to think, you know, we've got it wrong and you've got it right, or we've got it we've got it right and you've got it wrong when it comes to our beliefs. And I was like, do you not hear the hypocrisy from the beginning of your sermon when you're talking about needing to convert people because they don't believe what you believe? Yet here you are talking about moral superiority. And in the story of Jonah like expects God to smite the pagans and the non-believers because he's like, they're just going to revert back. And God says that he's for the people. And the preacher was talking about like Jonah cared more about his personal comforts and his beliefs than for the people that are lost. And it just got me thinking, maybe the beliefs on spirit isn't what causes people to be lost. Perhaps it's the fact that people do fall into their ego and they feed this sense of spiritual superiority over others, believing that their truth, their perspective is the only perspective and the only truth, the only right way. When we all have different paths, we all have different things that resonate with us. Because to me personally, it sounds like Jonah was the lost soul in the story for wishing people with other beliefs to be smited by God. You know, that is judgment. Feeling like you have to convert people and force your own personal beliefs onto them, that's judgment. When you're not supposed to be judging people, you know, you're supposed to be loving people. And he started speaking about altars at one point, and I I just had this thought about how, you know, altars are really prevalent in other religious beliefs, other belief systems, pagan belief systems. And, you know, even Christmas and Easter, like those are based off of pagan holidays. You have literally borrowed concepts from other belief systems, but then you want to talk about religious superiority and that you have to convert people because they're lost if they don't have the same beliefs as you. But you've literally taken from their belief systems. It just kind of boggles my mind, you know? He started talking about, oh, and one other thing. During the prayer thing, they were also talking about like supernatural encounters. And during the story of Nineveh, they were also talking about supernatural encounters and spreading the word of God, the gospel. And, I personally have had plenty of supernatural encounters in my life. I am on a shamanic life path. Most people would consider me a witch. I have clairaudience. I've had premonitions. I see symbolism. I can scry. I have spoken with deities in my dreams before and done soul retrievals in my dreams. I've quite literally been at music festivals where I've had a thought and then it has manifested like that sometimes. Like sometimes I have manifestations take place within like 5 minutes. It's just absolutely wild. Reality is not what we think it is, you guys. And as he's talking about spreading the gospel, because, Jonah was instructed to spread the word of God to the people of Nineveh. So he's talking about spreading the gospel. He starts talking about draw is the first step. John 6:4. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws them. Okay, well, if you're going on mission trips and you're actively going out to people's houses and their communities in order to recruit them, that is not drawing. That is literally, think of offense and defense. That is literally an offensive act. You are going to them. You're not allowing them to come to you. In my perspective, it would be more effective if you just led by example instead of trying to force your beliefs onto other people. Speaking of that, I recall how, a couple of days ago, I was in that coffee shop and some chain of events led me to Psalms 119, 103. How sweet are your words, judging people for not having the same beliefs as you and feeling the need to convert them. Like, those are not sweet words. Like calling people lost because they're different from you. Those are not sweet words. That is exactly what pushes people away from your belief system. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? Right. Love is more compelling than fear. And judgmental words are of ego, not of spirit. Those are not the words of God. Those are the words of men telling you to go out and judge others, because God is absolutely everything. On a shamanic life path, God is literally everything in existence. You're God. I'm God. We're all a part of it. We are all a part of the Great Spirit. Going back to the draw, already covered that. Sorry, moving on. Then he starts talking about bind. No one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he may plunder his house. Marks 3:27. Now, this is about Jesus being accused of using Satan's power in order to cast out demons. And Jesus is like, what? That makes no sense, because it doesn't. Like, that would be Satan using his own powers against himself. This just made me think of how I have been judged for my own spiritual gifts and my own spiritual beliefs. Yeah, I was literally told that I have been deceived today when I said I'm not a Christian and I started talking about my shamanic life path and the things that I believe in, and that I draw truths from multiple sources, whatever resonates with my soul. It's the same thing. The evil is not people's individual spiritual connections and belief systems and the gifts. The evil is the judgment that we cast upon things that we don't understand instead of taking time to sit with them and try to understand them. Fear is what creates suffering in this world, period. Next, they talked about breaking. For though we live in a world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10:34. The preacher was talking about strongholds being other people's beliefs, their belief systems, and how they need to be broken down because the non-believers are lost and it's evil. And again, the evil is not people's individual spiritual belief systems or connection to spirit. The evil is the negativity that people create in their own minds. The judgment is the evil. It's just ironic to me. You want to sit here and judge people and call them evil while you are literally casting judgment and trying to force your will upon them. It just makes no sense to me. Then he talked about open. In their case, the God of his world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. 2 Corinthians 4:4. You know, the God of the world is your God according to your belief systems. And, you know, me personally, the glory of Christ, like, I'm a firm believer that Christ consciousness is all of us. It exists within all of us because we are one great spirit, one consciousness having multiple human experiences. Like we're the same conscious being told from multiple different perspectives. Um, And, you know, for me personally, those that solely believe one belief system without even considering others, you know, you've been programmed, which blinds your mind and it creates this judgment and this separation, this air of superiority. And you limit yourself to so many different things that could unlock your own spiritual gifts. And, you know, if Christianity works for you, totally cool. No judgment. You know, you do you. Spiritual beliefs are very personal. You shouldn't be forcing other people. I'm just freely speaking my beliefs right now. You're free to believe whatever you want to believe, and I love you regardless. I will listen to what you have to say, just as I did today. You know, I went into this with a completely open mind, and it just reinforced my own personal beliefs. I went into it with an open mind, and just what I saw was not openness to anything else other than your own perspectives. And it's just really mind-boggling and sad to me personally. And I definitely believe in like spiritual warfare, but not in the way that was being preached within that church. I believe that there are lots of things in this world that disconnect us from our spirit, such as constantly being on screens, all of the materialism and consumerism that's pushed on us, this fear and separation, all of the chemicals that they put into our food, the pharmaceuticals that they feed us, telling us it'll fix us instead of actually getting to the root cause of the problem, which is usually, you know, things like unprocessed trauma and lack of exercise, lack of connection to nature, bad diets, things like that. As I left the church, I was like, I will probably never go to another sermon again. Maybe at a different church just to see what people are talking about, maybe for other videos, just because it did expand my perspective. It was an interesting experience to say the least, right? I at least want to hear people out and hear what they have to say. That's how I discover what resonates with my own soul. I was thinking about recording a video as I was leaving and I saw an 888. So I was like, yes, I'm in alignment. As I was taking a note about that and saying I got what I was meant to get out of the experience, I saw a 333. I love the synchronicities. I love the angel numbers. And then on my way home, before going to that grief support group, I actually had another interesting experience. You know, I mentioned how the church address had a 7777 in it, which was part of the confirmation for me that I need to trust my intuition and go. Well, on my drive home, I saw a 777 and I passed the car and it had a Bigfoot carrying an American flag on it. And I just immediately thought of the Ojibwe culture. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but it's a Native American tribe and belief system, and they have something called the Seven Grandfathers teachings. Please look it up. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. I just want to talk about one of the teachings right now. But one of the teachings is the Sabe, and the Sabe is also known as Bigfoot. And the teaching regarding Sabe is about honesty, truth, and authenticity. And the principle of it is being aware of yourself, knowing who you are, and not pretending to be someone you're not, living in your truth, your most authentic self. And that's literally what today did for me. It just reaffirmed that I know who I am. I'm not confused about my spiritual beliefs, even if other people think I am. And today was really inspiring because I'm going to start talking about my spiritual experiences and my spiritual awakening process, my gifts, all these things that that I have experienced over the last couple of years since losing my mom. And I'm not going to be scared to do it. I know there are other people having these experiences because I see videos on YouTube about them all the time, but I've still been scared because that witch wound runs deep, you know? Um, I've never felt like I fit in this world, and over the last year, it's started to make sense why. It's because I'm not of this world. And I just live in a community where I'm starting to realize I'm not going to find my people. So I need to start putting myself out there. I want to start talking about things with bravery, and I just got to trust the process that my people are going to find me. Today was exactly what I needed, even if it didn't go very well and made me uncomfortable at times. Even if I was a crying, hysterical mess after leaving the grief support thing, after being told that I need to be delivered I need to have deliverance from the evil within me, you know, like I'm feeling these emotions because I need to process them, because that's how I get them out instead of neglecting them. And part of the human experience is having good experiences and bad experiences, negative emotions and positive emotions. And that's okay. You know, uh, I am who I am. I'm going to put myself out there and do what I do. And if you want to follow me and you want to learn about my spiritual experiences, maybe experience me pulling some cards here soon, continue to watch the hot mess that I am, please consider subscribing if you've made it this far. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, night, week, month, year, and life. Peace be with you and many blessings from here on out.